In this May 6 report, viewers learned that a Rutgers commencement speaker had been disinvited after making social media accusations of sexual torture against Israel without presenting supporting evidence.
Rutgers University has rescinded its invitation to a speaker at the School of Engineering graduation.
Administrators at the school say it's because of his anti-Israel comments that made some students there uncomfortable. Christine Sloan has details from New Brunswick.
Rami El-Handor was scheduled to speak at the Rutgers Engineering School's graduation, but the university withdrawing the invitation, citing to CBS News New York a social media post where El-Handor said this about Israel, that, quote, forget a free ride. They've committed genocide. They're running dungeons where they train dogs to sexually assault prisoners. Rutgers University releasing a statement saying, quote, this decision keeps the focus on our engineering students and honors the celebratory spirit of the event to ensure that no graduate feels forced to choose between their personal convictions and a convocation ceremony. But the Council on American Islamic Relations New Jersey is blasting the university.
It's not like any of his speech was hateful speech or bigoted speech. It was calling for an end to genocide, calling for human rights and accountability. So it was disappointing, especially this happened just, I want to say, 2 weeks after Rutgers welcomed IDF soldiers on campus.
We reached out to El-Handor, but did not hear back. On X, though, the entrepreneur calling Rutgers' decision heartbreaking and claiming a handful of students complained and adding, quote, I stand by my commitment to human rights and American democracy.
I think this sends a clear message to the Rutgers community, to the community at large, about whose interests and whose comfort levels they take into consideration.
WCBS did not clarify whether those accusations had been independently verified. Instead, CARE was presented as the principal interpretive voice and characterized the statements as calling for human rights and accountability, without examining the factual basis of the allegations. A similar pattern appeared in WCBS's coverage of vandalized stop signs in Deer Park.
Some other headlines of the day now. Some hateful graffiti has a Long Island community on edge tonight. Messages scrawled on stop signs in a Deer Park neighborhood amid a rise of Islamophobia across the country. Jenna DeAngela spoke with a man who called police.
Sad, disgusted.
Neighbors outraged by an alarming sight around this Deer Park neighborhood. Anti-Muslim vandalism on at least 8 stop signs in the area of Cardo Circle.
Every single stop sign has a stop Islam all over the place.
This father didn't want his face on camera, concerned for the safety of his children.
It's unfortunate they have to see the stop sign and they say stop Islam, and they've been asking questions, why is this?
Town Supervisor Rich Schaefer said in a statement, we will not tolerate this hate and intolerance in our town. The New York chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations calls this deeply troubling, saying, quote, such acts contribute to a climate of hostility and fear for Muslim residents and those perceived to be Muslim. According to its most recent civil rights report, complaints of anti-Muslim bias and discrimination have continued to rise nationwide. It received more than 8,600 complaints last year, the highest single-year total since tracking began in 1996. This neighbor calling for unity and tolerance for all.
We need to get united and get everybody together and put the differences behind and stand together.
In Deer Park, Long Island, Jenna DeAngelis, CBS News, New York.
Where CARE was used to broaden a local incident into a national narrative, while the station amplified claims from CARE's report without examining its methodology or its sourcing. WCBS also aired CARE's calls for disciplinary action against a teacher in the hijab controversy before the underlying facts were fully established.
Allegations of discrimination in an Essex County, New Jersey school where a teacher is accused of taking a hijab off a second grader's head.
The young girl is Muslim. CBS 2's Meg Baker spoke with the student's mother and has more.
I'll try to teach them modesty and teach them about what God wants us to do and what is our purpose here.
Cassandra Wyatt's 7-year-old daughter and her sister have been wearing the hijab or a headscarf since they were very young. They are Muslim. Wyatt says her daughter's second grade teacher at the Seth Boyden Elementary School in Maplewood forcefully removed the hijab from her head this week.
She said, yes, Mommy. She pulled my hijab off. She was pulling it off. So she walked up to me and said, you can't wear that in here. And then she pulled it off. And when she went to pull it off, Sumaya said she was trying to hold it like, no, this is my hijab. This is my hijab. And then she finally got it off. And then she looked at her hair and said, well, your hair is nice. And then Sumaya said, oh, thank you. And then Sumaya put her hijab back on. And the whole entire class seen it.
Now there is an investigation. CARE NJ, the Council on American Islamic Relations, a civil rights advocacy group for Muslims, is calling for the teacher's removal.
So the teacher not only put her hands on her, removed her headscarf, and this is, of course, humiliating for any Muslim woman to be exposed in this way in public.
Now, the school district is reminding folks that social media is not a reliable forum for due process, and staff members involved are entitled to that before action is taken. They add that they must abide by their legal obligations to keep personnel and student matters confidential.
He is now suing CARE for defamation. Suddenly, no TV stations will touch this story. In CARE's motion to dismiss this defamation lawsuit against them, they claimed they were only engaging in, quote, subjective views, epithets, and rhetorical hyperbole used to express CARE's deeply held opinions about the incident and Herman, unquote. CARE's lawyers go on to state that everybody knows that CARE does not really mean what it says, they're just posturing. Quote, context is key here. CARE's role as a staunch advocate for Muslim Americans signals to readers that these underlined statements are not an assertion of objective fact, but as expressions of subjective belief and opinion from an advocate's point of view, unquote. Furthermore, several of the statements were posted on Twitter where readers expect a, quote, wide range of casual, emotive, and imprecise speech. While that may be true of social media, it's not true of TV stations. Then, on Monday, October 23rd, Judge Daniel Lindemann denied all of the motions to dismiss the lawsuit, allowing the case against CARE to go forward. However, this decision was reversed on appeal, the reasoning being that there is no evidence that CARE was malicious and deliberately spreading false and damaging information about Tamar Herman. CARE is simply expressing an opinion and are under no obligation to fact-check the statements they make. But TV stations are obligated to fact-check the information they broadcast as news. Many YouTube channels ask you to like and subscribe. I am asking you to do something more useful. Call the station. Because this is not just about one WCBS report. It's about a recurring editorial habit. In the Rutgers commencement story, CARE was allowed to recast serious, unverified accusations against Israel as mere human rights and accountability advocacy. In the Deer Park stop sign vandalism story, CARE was allowed to turn a local incident into part of a broader national narrative without the station examining CARE's methodology or evidence. And in the hijab teacher story, CARE's accusations received public attention before the facts were fully established, while later, legal complications received no attention on TV at all. That is not careful journalism. That is advocacy being passed through a newsroom. CARE is not a neutral academic authority. It's not a court. It's not a law enforcement agency. It is an advocacy organization with its own agenda, its own history, and its own interest in shaping public opinion. Local stations are free to quote CARE, but they should not hand CARE the frame of the story without asking basic questions. And that is the larger pattern. In the thousands of broadcasts I have reviewed, CARE is almost never treated as a controversial advocacy organization. Its television appearances are overwhelmingly positive or deferential. CARE condemns hate. CARE speaks for the Muslim community. CARE calls for accountability. What viewers rarely see is scrutiny of CARE itself, its methods, its claims, its history, or its role in escalating accusations against ordinary people and local institutions. Were CARE's claims independently verified? Was the alleged victim's account tested against other evidence? Did the station include legal, academic, or institutional experts? Did it tell viewers that CARE is an advocacy group, not a neutral arbiter? And when later facts complicate CARE's original narrative, will the station give those developments the same visibility it gave the initial accusation? This is what viewers should ask. So don't just watch this happen. Don't just complain online. Call the station. Be polite, be specific. Think about what you're going to say before calling. Mention the broadcast, mention the reporter. Don't argue over the phone. Instead, ask why CARE was treated as the principal interpretive voice. Ask why competing perspectives were missing. Ask whether the station intends to apply the same scrutiny to CARE that it would apply to any other political advocacy organization. Local newsrooms hear from CARE. They hear from activist groups. They hear from pressure campaigns. They need to hear from viewers, too. If a station wants to help CARE attack a teacher, a school, a business, a public official, or an entire community, then the public has every right to ask why the station is doing CARE's work for it.